We are here to talk about Cassandra Clare again. In particular, we are here to talk about the Seasons of Shadowhunters Kickstarter. So I backed Seasons of Shadowhunters, I'd like to say almost 2 years ago. And I've finally received all 4, I've read all 4. And so I said I would make a dedicated review video so you guys can get an idea on either what you missed out on or we can connect based on our opinions of this Kickstarter. A tiny bit of background, Cassandra Clare came out and announced that she was launching Seasons of Shadowhunters. She initially was not going to traditionally publish these books. That changed. Spoiler alert. The idea was the publishing industry isn't in a great place and she wanted a way to get these books out there. Exclusive or extra Cassandra Clare content is exactly the type of thing I adore. When I saw this, I backed it immediately. I chose, I believe, the Institute Library tier. I'll read you the description. As you probably know, I've written many books, mostly in Shadowhunters universe. I know you're impatiently waiting for the Wicked Powers, and yes, I'm working on it, but I didn't want 2 or 3 years to go by between Chain of Thorns and the Wicked Powers without any new Shadowhunter content. So this Kickstarter features brand new work as well as updated versions of writing you may have seen previously. You will see that most tiers say they ship in March of 2024. That is when we hope to get the first book out to you as the first shipment. We will ship 4 books in 4 shipments throughout 2024 and into early 2025. 1 in fall, 1 in winter, 1 in spring, and 1 in summer. Your Seasons of Shadowhunters. But what will the 4 books be, you ask? Allow me to tell you. I believe production went on longer than was planned because I think I got the final Season of Shadowhunter book. It was definitely mid 2025, which it wasn't too bad. I wasn't that stressed about it. Let's jump into each of these books. So the first book is The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. Let us take a second to admire the beautiful book. And it came with artwork on the inside. As you can see, that is the Blackthorn family, and the book looks like this. Basically, if you're a Cassandra Clare fan, you've definitely heard of The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. During the pandemic, Cassandra Clare did a weekly, almost writing challenge where she uploaded once a week for I think an entire year. And all of these posts, I believe, are still accessible on her Tumblr. If I think of it, I'll link that down below. You don't need to buy this book or get this book to actually read The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall, which was nice. I like that this was for the people who wanted it in a physical copy. With this book, she also sent out a few bits and pieces because the pledgers exceeded the goal set by Cassandra Clare and the team. There were bits and pieces we got added, one of which was these Polaroids of the characters from a specific entry in Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. So they're really cute. I have them actually, I keep them on my bookshelf. Next, we got a So Your House is Cursed, a guide for the perplexed. Like an informational handbook, leaflet type thing. And again, if you've read Secrets of Blackthorn Hall, that makes a lot of sense to you. Something I was nearly the most excited about was this. The Wicked Powers by Cassandra Clare Sneak Peek. Cassandra Clare has been known to do this. I have one for the Eldest Curses somewhere. I really enjoy these because the first chapter, the sample chapter is usually different than the final edit. But yeah, it was nice to get little bits and pieces with that. Let's get into the Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. I'll read you the official description from the Kickstarter page. So some of you may remember that strange year when I told you all the story of The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. Posted every week on Tumblr. As of this moment, this story of Julian, Emma, and a stubborn ghostly curse only exists on the internet. But if enough of you back this Kickstarter, we can print it with a fancy stamped hardcover and Cassandra Jean's art full colour throughout, including the Polaroids from Craig's retirement party. All hail Craig. You get it if you get it. If you don't worry about it. What was actually really fun about Secrets of Blackthorn Hall is that it's supposed to be pretty much like a multimedia piece. There's texts, there's images. I remember when Cassandra Clare actually announced this, it was on an Instagram live in 2020, I believe, or around then. And she said that basically it was an opportunity to tell a story in a different way than just a linear book. So for example, she could have newspaper clippings as one week, or as you saw, text messages as the next week. So it would keep it just like a really interesting way to tell a story. I reckon that, you know, it was almost like a challenge and a fun experience for a storyteller, an author, to go through and actually try out this different medium. Hence why it was posted on Tumblr, because it didn't fit the traditional publishing book format at the time. Now we have it in physical copy. I really loved reading The Secrets of Blackthorn Hall. I tuned in every Tuesday to read it. I loved it. I never actually reread it because I know the story and I remember the story. If you don't have this one, you're not really missing out. And if you're still curious, I'd say hop on over to Tumblr. It's a good story and the mystery was so intriguing. And that's, I think, the thing you're missing out most on is the what's coming next week. Julian and Emma go to Blackthorn Hall, which is Cirenworth. The mansion at Cirenworth, the Grace Blackthorn and Tatiana Blackthorn's home. It basically fell into disrepair once the last hours finishes. The Shadowhunters are basically like, we're going to like demolish the house, get rid of it, whatever, do what we want with it if one of you Blackthorns don't take it and do it up, because it's falling to pieces. So please take it or we will. And so Julian goes, right, I'm taking it and I'm going to fix it up. Of course, Emma comes along and they basically start making the house a home, and it's really sweet. But as they're, you know, fixing things up, they start to realize that it's not a quick fix. There's actually a lot going on. The house appears to be cursed. Hence the pamphlet. So your house is cursed. And I'll kind of leave it there. The mystery is the best part. What is this curse? Who put it there? What's going on? Highly recommend you check that out on Tumblr. And I'm happy to have this really pretty book. The next book to arrive was Notable Shadowhunters and Denizens of the Downworld. The official description is, longtime fans will be familiar with Cassandra Jean's Flower Card series, which we bundled up into a book called An Illustrated History of Notable Shadowhunters and Denizens of the Downworld, way back in 2016. This new edition will feature old faves as well as the grown-up versions of folks like Kit, Ty and Drew, and some new characters who we have all grown to know and love. The information about them will be corrected and updated, and the whole thing will again be wrapped in a gorgeous and unique hardcover. It is also gorgeous, and once again got our little art on the inside and the gorgeous cover. This is another one that is readily available out and about. You can get the old version anyway in like any shop. I ironically never bought the original copy because I always felt it was expensive for not much going on. Like, it's just essentially a set of fact files along with pretty art. Here's just a random page I opened. Nice art, little fact file on the people on the page. Here, another one. Pretty, but I was always very hesitant and frugal with spending money on a book that I couldn't get hours and hours and hours out of. Adult Katie has no such qualms. This really is probably a very skippable one. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 5 stars officially. I love Cassandra Jean's new art. I think her style has improved so much through the years. Here's an example of like a new portrait, which is incredible. I really enjoyed looking at the characters. I did find a typo. Ty's page, the wrong birth year was given. That makes this book feel more authentic. I don't think this book will be republished if you feel like you missed out. Sure, the flower cards have been posted online, probably also on Tumblr. If you're ever in doubt about really anything Cassandra Clare or fandom related, go to Tumblr. I'm sure people have posted all of these. And they're gorgeous. I really did like this. I sat down. It was almost like a mindfulness moment of contemplation on these characters and also how far they've come. That's 2 of them and how nicely they go together. Next, we'll talk about the Careful of Books novellas. This one was a bit of a surprise to me. This is 4 novella length stories. At least one is set in the Shadowhunter world and continues the tale of a character who many have been curious about, I bet you can guess. The other 3 will be a mix of new young adult stories, all wrapped up in a matching hardcover limited Kickstarter edition. And here it is. Open it up. Moody little art. It's Oscar the dog. and bam. I think green and gold are such a lovely combination. This book was interesting to me. And I think this is almost the first one that can get a legit review because there was actual story going on rather than Secrets of Blackthorn Hall being kind of a collection of bits and pieces, and then the notable Shadowhunters blah 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 book. There wasn't much to review, whereas this one feels like you can actually give comments and critiques about. I read that description, but I didn't remember it when this novella collection came. The first story was indeed a Shadowhunter story, and then the next one was not a Shadowhunter story, and then the next one wasn't a Shadowhunter story, and then the last one was also not a Shadowhunter story. So I really was a tiny bit disappointed because I, for some reason in my head, keep in mind there was a long time between me backing the Kickstarter and receiving this book. I'd say there was over a year. I didn't remember that was the description. I just saw Season of Shadowhunters, 4 novellas, brilliant Shadowhunters, and again, it's in the name, so whatever. And a lot of people were the same. People were upset that they wanted more Shadowhunters but didn't get Shadowhunters. This is the only one that I reckon you definitely will not be able to get anywhere else. These novellas really felt like we were just essentially given Cassandra Clare's drafts folder. There were 4 stories. I'll start with the first one, A Sea Change. This was Matthew's story. It was also, I think, potentially the shortest one of the 4. It was so short that everything had to move very quickly. It's all about Matthew post Chain of Thorns, and I won't dive into what happened at the end of Chain of Thorns because spoilies, but big emotional devastation, especially with what Matthew was going through all 3 of the last hours, which are just up here. All 3 of the last hours, Matthew was going through it the whole time. He really did have unfinished business at the end of the book, the final book. So I enjoyed seeing some of the emotional fallout from that and seeing how Matthew has changed. He's become a lot more cautious. He used to be very impulsive, running straight into danger, whereas now he was like, I want to stay out of it. Maybe not for me right now. We also see him with a love interest that I quite like the dynamic, the goings on. The only thing I have to say about it though is that it was very quick because it was a very short novella. All in all, I enjoyed Matthew's story and the shenanigans he managed to get himself into, like 70 pages. It's the most Matthew thing you could ever see or read. Really enjoyed Cassandra Clare's writing again. I know I read Ragpicker King this year. I know she's my favorite author. I really do, obviously. I have a whole bookshelf just for her, but I feel like I forget how much I actually love her writing between books. When I pick up a new book or even just an old book, it's like being hit with that love all over again. And that's how I really felt as I started Matthew's novella. It was just hit with the, oh, this is such a Cassandra Clare novella. I love it. I love this writing. This is like so comforting. So really diehard Cassandra Clare fans will have liked this set of novellas. Let's get into the second one. It is called A Scandal at Undershaw. This is a Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. This story is a Sherlock Holmes retelling set in a boarding school in the US. It really is the kind of fanfic you read on Wattpad when you're like 13 or 14. You know? And I mean that in a good way. It was really nostalgic and comfy. It was almost like Cassandra Clare's back to her fanfic ways. If you didn't know, that's where Cassandra Clare was really famous before she was publishing her own stuff. And the thing about this Sherlock Holmes fanfiction is it was so good. I want to read more. I wanted more. Cassandra, please. It was really well written. The mystery was really intriguing. And the dynamic, she got that dynamic really well. The Sherlock and John Watson dynamic, like spot on. It was incredible. It made me want to go back and watch, you know, the BBC version of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. I was yearning to watch that after reading this novella, which was just crazy. And genuinely, I think this story was my favorite of the 4, which is kind of crazy. Added context, I am a big Sherlock Holmes fan. Who kind of isn't? I am also a big fan fiction reader. So the two, you know, it's not surprising that I liked it so much because it was 2 things. And yes, as a 13-year-old, I did read Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. Maybe Cassandra Clare's in the walls. She knows. It was good. And that's also why I was saying it felt like it was in her drafts folder. Writer's block in the Shadowhunter universe, Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. That's the vibe, and it was immaculate, fantastic. Release more for me. Next, we have Wendy Darling. This was a screenplay, kind of like a Peter Pan AU. It's like modernized and really focused on Wendy, hence Wendy Darling. The story was interesting. There's also a mysterious element to it, which I enjoyed. I love not knowing, but that did mean that I want to know what happens next, because I think it was kind of like a prospective pilot episode for a Peter Pan show that she did not get greenlit. It kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, and so I really want to know what happens next. You don't have to write it, Cassandra Clare, you just have to tell me what your plan was. Like, I would love to see her planning process documents, like a master book of lore. I would love to see that for the Wendy Darling screenplay. It was weird to be reading about like Peter Pan. I'll say it was charming. It was incredibly descriptive, and I could imagine it as a TV show so easily, which is how it ended up in here, I assume. Finally, in Fire Foretold. Now this is an interesting one. So this is a sneak peek at a new Cassandra Clare series we are getting once Shadowhunters is all done. New universe, new lore, new everything. This story was so Cassandra Clare that it just gripped my heart. I really look forward to this series coming out. It was completely new and weird, and I was trying to figure out where things were going. We have our main character transported from this fantasy land into the real world. She grows up in the real world. After a time jump, she's 17, 18, around that, late teens, and she has lost all of her memories from her childhood, so she does not actually remember the fantasy land. Suddenly, she is attacked by this monster. This monster was giving demon meets a red cap. If you know anything about fairies, I'm sure you do. That was it was a mix match of a demon and a red cap. And I think Cassandra Clare is leaning more towards like red cap and fairy stuff. The main character is then saved by a blonde man from her forgotten past. That's kind of it so far. I really look forward to seeing where this goes in the future. A new Cassandra Clare series is always good news, and so that is the final novella. Kind of like a random mixed bag. That is our 3 books. One left, guys, one left. This is probably the most Shadowhunters of them all. Well, not probably, is. The last book you will get is a bundle of 10 brand new short stories from the Shadowhunters universe. Something like Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, but in this case, the connecting thread between the stories is the theme of romance and love. Each story will focus on one or more couples from all across the series, from infernal devices to mortal instruments to dark artifices and beyond. There may be some spice. This book will be bound up to match the others, and this last shipment will have a complimentary slipcase that houses all 4 books, blah blah blah. Brand new stories never seen before anywhere else, and right now exclusive to this campaign. And there's also been a tiny bit of controversy to come with it. It is going to be traditionally published later this year. We'll touch on that in a sec, but here's the gorgeous cover. We got our Jason Clary, and of course, so, traditionally published, a lot of people are upset, and a lot of people are saying they wouldn't have backed the Kickstarter if they had known that they could get this book for what, 12, 13 euro when it does come out. And I totally get the criticism. The thing that was supposed to be exclusive, it's no longer exclusive. Demand and exclusivity made it worth more to people. Yeah, I see why that would piss you off. Me, I was always going to back the Kickstarter. I'm not one of the people who is upset about Better in Black coming out traditionally, so you are not missing out on that. You just won't get the pretty version. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it. 5 stars. It's all about love. If this wasn't the pretty version and it was just the regular, like a regular book, you know, like this kind of paper and everything, I would have been annotating. This paper is like shiny paper, and I hate the idea of a pen touching that paper is actually sickening, and I hate it. I hate it. It's disgusting. So I'm gonna stop thinking about it. Take notes, because I do think Cassandra Clare, she loves this. She loves to drop these hints into her short stories. And if there's ever something obscure, you're like, where did this Shadowhunters universe knowledge come from? One of those short stories books, because there's always stuff in there that you overlook at the time, and then you read 10 years later and like, oh my god, she told us the ending on this page. That kind of thing. I was locked in on these 10 short stories, and oh my god, I love them. There was a few things, characters and roles in, for example, the fairy court, there was a certain figure that I don't remember being a thing before. So I was like, write that down. I was texting my friends some theories, like I think this is going to be important or play a part in the Wicked Powers, or even the Eldest Curses, the final book, Black Book of the Dead. And then there was also in the Clary and Jace story, was probably the most insane one in terms of premonition vibes. It's not looking good, basically, for the Shadowhunter universe. I think this book is nearly essential reading going into the Wicked Powers, and I've not read the Wicked Powers yet, so I don't know if that's true. There's definitely hints in here that we won't know until we've read Wicked Powers. I'm going to give you a 1 or 2 line opinion on each of the short stories. So if you are like, oh, I don't want to know what couples are together, goodbye, my apologies. This is kind of spoilers for who ends up with who at the end of each of the books. You've been cautioned. We have Will and Tessa, that story. I miss Will Herondale. That was the main thing I took out of that. Oh my god, I love Will Herondale and I miss him so bad. I need more Will Herondale, like, short stories. I don't know, figure it out, Cassandra Clare, please. I miss him. My heart ached for both characters. You know, you get it. The next one was James and Cordelia, which I wouldn't necessarily say actually was about them. I would say it's almost more Lucy's story with a side of James and Cordelia going on. And I really enjoyed that short story because it felt very self-insert, Cassandra Clare, where it was all about coming to terms with the end of whatever. And to me, I don't know if I'm reading too into it, but I really felt the emotions of what the Shadowhunter universe chronicles, whatever, coming to an end, and that impact on not just her but us being like, yeah, it's okay for it to end. It also doesn't have to be perfect. This is the end. That was the vibe of that second short story, and it just, like, it hit me. I don't get it. I'm not an author who has a masterwork or even just like a big ending coming, but I'm a reader. We got a Jocelyn and Luke story. The Yearner, I wasn't aware of the yearn. He has Herondale levels of yearning in that story. I love. Next one is Alistair and Thomas. That was a really fun story. I like seeing Alistair a bit more vulnerable. We got like a small bit of vulnerability, but we actually got to see how he is alone with Thomas. Next, we have a Kieran, Mark and Christina story, and this one felt like we got more lore implications. I liked seeing Kieran do his thing, kind of as the Unseelie King, you know? I like to see that part of him. Next, we have Emma and Julian. I love Emma. I think she's the funniest character pretty much ever. I enjoyed the weird stuff that happened in this story, and also more lore implications. I think it also leaves bits and pieces open very much for what the big bad could end up being. We have Simon and Isabel. I found this really interesting, seeing where their relationship is post Mortal Instruments. Simon getting over him being nerdy and being with Isabel, and kind of like the insecurity that goes along with that. And again, if you've read the book, you kind of get it and why he would feel this way. But also Isabel being like, are you dumb? Also callbacks to other characters in this short story that I was not expecting. Next we have Jason Clary, which I've already mentioned, the premonition side of it, but also seeing Clary and Jace as a couple, as adults. Oh, I love them, Your Honor. I think that was probably my favorite story. That or the Will and Tessa one, because I love Jason Clary so much. Clary now being at a point in their relationship where she keeps up with Jace's humor and like serves it back to him is so fantastic to read, and I love them so much. Finally, there was a Sebastian and the Seelie Queen story, which was super intriguing because we had Sebastian being a psychopath and the Queen actually loving him, or like at least really fancying him. It was told kind of from a third character observing the situation and everything that happens there. It was a bit bizarre and like, whoa, Sebastian. That was Better in Black set of short stories, and I highly recommend you buy it when it comes out. That was all 4 of them together. Here is the slipcase. It did get delivered damaged, unfortunately. I'm sure there's not much people can do about that, so it's life, but they do still look very cute on my shelf. Ta-da! Those are my thoughts on the Seasons of Shadowhunters Kickstarter. All in all, I love them. Most Cassandra Clare fans will have adored all 4. Prepare for so much Cassandra Clare talking on this channel because I adore all of her writing. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, here's another one that YouTube recommends for you. I'll see you next time.